Let's get one thing straight. PC building and PC gaming are two completely different hobbies, and I totally understand that as someone who's built PCs and who's someone who also games on the daily. In the short time that I've been building PCs and doing PC repairs and even being in the PC retail space, I've seen a lot of PCs that deserved a lot better than what they were actually given in terms of the building process and everything like that. So because of the distinct differences between both of these hobbies, I want to talk about buying a pre-built PC, because I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about the PC pre-built market, and I think there's a lot of competitors in the space nowadays, and on top of that, there's just a lot of options and things you need to look out for whenever buying a pre-built. So today we're going to be talking about the 6 things that I think you need to be taking a look out for when buying a pre-built. I just wanted to give a heads up to you guys. I do work for a pre-built company, and I have pretty much seen almost every single pre-built company out there on the market, from companies like STG, Skytech Gaming, MTG, you name it, HP, Dell, Alienware, pretty much every single pre-built company you can probably think of. These are the 6 things that I think a lot of them do, and I think I want you guys to know as well. So starting off with the very first thing that I want to talk about, that is going to be the pictures of the PCs. Now, a lot of companies out there are not going to actually provide the actual pictures of the pre-builts that you're buying. A lot of them are going to be renders, and the problem with renders is that, of course, when you're marketing a PC, you want that PC to look really, really good, and I feel like a lot of those renders end up turning out to be something not really like what the PC actually looks like in person. And that can be a problem because a lot of people will see those really cool flashy renders with like a ROG Strix 4090 in that little case, and they're like, wow, that's gonna be a really good build. But when you get it, it's like a 2-fan MSI model. So I feel like a lot of companies will kind of market it that way and maybe make it a little more compelling whenever you see those renders. But just keep in mind, just try and see whatever pre-built you're buying, they actually have a picture of the actual pre-built so you know what kind of build you're looking at and what it actually is gonna look like when you get it to your door. Next up is a big one, and I feel like a lot of pre-built companies do this, and that is going to be the motherboard sizing. I think a lot of people like a large ATX size case, but the problem with pre-built companies, and a lot of them do this, is that they want to save some money. So what they're going to do is put a micro ATX motherboard in that ATX case, leaving a ton of room underneath the motherboard, and it kind of just doesn't look that great, honestly. And on top of it not looking great, you are kind of just missing out on the potential of that ATX case with, you know, more slots, more NVMe expansions, and etc. So I think it's a big thing that I personally would hate to see if I bought my own pre-built PC, because overall it doesn't cost too much more for the manufacturer to put in an ATX case. And there definitely are more manufacturers nowadays that are putting out ATX motherboards into ATX cases. So if you are kind of trying to stay budget, let's say like around $1,000 to $1,200 for pre-built, I would maybe consider seeing if you can have a micro ATX option just to make sure that the motherboard is the right size in the right case. More on the boards, that's going to be actually leading me to my third point today, and that's going to be just motherboards in general. A lot of pre-built companies are going to put some really, really cheap motherboards in there, and overall they're actually more I think they're actually OEM specific motherboards that they'll get from the manufacturers themselves with slightly different modified versions of them to mainly include Wi-Fi, because a lot of people want Wi-Fi in their motherboards, but a lot of the times they really skimp out on the VRM covers, and that kind of sucks because overall you want like a nice quality motherboard, and you really want something name brand that is going to perform well and is upgradable. Something I hate to see is a cheap motherboard and a pretty good build that could potentially be holding like your nice Ryzen 5 or Ryzen 7 CPU back, depending on how nice of a build you get. So just keep that in mind. This isn't as big of a deal if you have a cheaper CPU and it's on the lower end of a system, but if you are getting a nicer pre-built, you got to make sure that they have at least a somewhat capable, powerful motherboard that can support all that nice hardware. Now, point 4 is going to be for those budget warriors, someone who wants to get a nice, cheap system with some still good bang for buck, because honestly, nowadays, there are some pretty decent pre-builts out there that are pretty good bang for buck. But something I hate to see, and this happens a lot with like your STG PCs and your PCs on Amazon, if you're shopping on there, or sometimes even Newegg, is they're not gonna list the actual processor generation. And that's a huge problem, because I even had someone DM me yesterday in the Discord, and they're like, hey Jonah, you all should buy this PC and do a review on it. It has a 4060 and it has an i7. And I was like, i7, and it only tells like the boost frequency, and I'm like, definitely like, ooh, i7, that sounds nice up front. But when you go down to the description, you like do some digging, you'll end up finding it's like a 4th or 2nd gen i7, and those are really, really old CPUs that you aren't gonna get a great bang for buck for, even at the price that, you know, these sellers are listing their PCs at. So processor generations are just as important as the number that they market them to be, like i7, Ryzen 5, and things like that, because of how powerful each generation becomes. So keep that in mind when you're looking online. And if you don't see a pre-built that list the actual generation, like the i5 4770 or like the i7 2nd gen, i7 6th gen. Make sure you kind of stay away from those because they are most of the time going to give you a pretty bad CPU, unless you get lucky sometimes, like you win the lottery or something. But most of the time, those unlisted CPU generations are not that great, and you're not going to want to do that to yourself because you could definitely screw yourself over with a bad deal. Point number 5 that we're talking about today is proprietary hardware, and this one definitely comes down to a lot of the more OEM brands. Like your more custom gaming PC brands definitely have started straying away from this, like Skytech, CyberPower, places like that. Those have definitely gotten a little better in terms of, name brand parts, like you can actually buy them off the shelf. And we love to see that because that allows you to upgrade them in the future. If you don't have name brand parts, it can definitely cause issues for whenever you do want to upgrade on the road. And these more proprietary components are still reigning true in builds like the HPs, the Dell Alienwares and things like that, because a lot of those still use weird case designs and they use weird motherboards and layouts for certain things that only work with their exact specific case. So in situations like where you have a bad component or anything like that, you're usually going down a rabbit hole to find the part that you need to replace, or just in general, you might have to replace the whole system. So that's one downside to some pre-built companies and some more OEM brands like HP Envy and things like that. Sometimes you got to take a look and you got to make sure that at least mostly everything is kind of off-the-shelf parts that you can replace if anything does go bad, or if you want to upgrade them. The last point we're talking about is warranty, and I feel like a lot of people kind of skimp over on this because it's pretty much like every single retail brand out there that has warranties and limited warranties. You always have to take them with a grain of salt, and you have to read the fine print because a lot of them aren't as good as you might seem. I know even some local competitors here in our state, I've seen their builds come into our shop and they have like maybe 6 or 7 stickers on them where if you even like remove the side panel, change anything out, move, like unplug or plug something back in or reseat a GPU or something like that, your warranty is completely void, and then you're kind of on your own. So you got to make sure, depending on how nice of a company you go with, you got to make sure their warranty actually holds up, and maybe even do some online researching, maybe some Reddit looking and seeing if anyone has had any issues with their with whatever company you're wanting to go with in their warranty problem, because a lot of people in this industry have had some pretty bad situations with warranties. So just keep that in mind when you're looking around. Even if it has like a 2, 3, 4 year warranty, make sure that it's a very good one and that you can actually trust it and actually use it if something goes wrong. Aside from that though, those are the main points that I wanted to talk about. At the end of the day, it just comes down to what PC you want and what kind of hardware you're looking for, and then honestly just the price. There's a lot of good competition out there now. Like I know ABS has been really, really popular on Newegg, and even occasionally running sales that are actually incredible for the price. PCs have definitely come a long way in terms of just price to performance and even just like good value nowadays. I mean, oftentimes actually, we're seeing a lot of pre-builts on the market now that we buy in for review on the channel that are actually incredible deals and sometimes even cheaper to buy those pre-builts than building yourself. So it's very important to keep an eye out on prices, sales, and do your research and see if you can find a really good deal on one if you're not wanting to build a gaming PC. At the end of the day, I'm always going to preach building your own gaming PC because overall, I love PC building. It's definitely a hobby for me in addition to PC gaming. But if you're not wanting to, maybe take the leap and you're not wanting to dive deep into the whole parts process and building and planning parts process, you can go ahead and buy pre-built. Just make sure you find one that has a bit of upgradability to it, and maybe you can start learning that way. And then maybe on your next pre-built or next PC, you can definitely start building your own. But that's pretty much gonna wrap up this video, guys. If you have any other pointers about pre-built PCs and things like that that you think everyone should know, definitely leave them down in the comments below because I'm interested to see what I missed. So thanks for watching the end if you all did, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.